So we're back with 100 more days of infrastructure as code in Azure, and now here on YouTube, sharing DevOps and DevSecOps tips that are going to help you not only with your Azure skills, but your exam readiness. And day 101 covers tech that shows up on multiple Azure certification exams, Azure Kubernetes Service. And Ryan is going to show and tell us about fast AKS cluster deployment with Azure Cloud Shell. So let's get to it.
All right, so here we go. Here is our demonstration of how to deploy a AKS cluster in Azure as fast as humanly possible from Azure Cloud Shell. So I've already logged into my my Azure subscription through the Azure portal above. As you can see, I have Azure Cloud Shell already up and working. I'm going to remove something here that don't need anymore, basically. That was from an earlier demo. And here I am, again, freshly installed, nothing going on. And another tab here, I am going to refresh and show that I have no resource groups that are actually currently in use over here. And so to start, what we're going to do is we're going to actually install the AKS preview version of the shell extension. Now you'll see that I've already had it installed because I was demoing it previously, but once you see it in here, you will actually see it under a folder called .azure, and it'll be under the CLI extensions. That's why this will actually be in this particular location here. So in order to ensure that you can replicate this actual demonstration here, we're going to generate a random 4-digit number for all of the resources that we're deploying so that you can literally copy and paste the commands you see here in front of you, and you should get a different number. Your odds of getting the same number are pretty slim, actually. So if I echo rand here, we'll see that I'm dealing with the number 5200. So all of my resources will end in 5200 that I'm deploying here. So I'm going to start by deploying a resource group called AZ Group Create. And as you can see here, I've pre-populated to deploy into the West Europe. And you'll see that it is called, the name of the resource group is AKS-IM-5200. Change the location as you feel necessary to your location near you. That's perfectly acceptable. Next, since I've already created that, I'm going to go through here and we're going to go through actually what's going on in creating the actual AKS cluster. So I'm going to put in a few and here we go. I'm going to paste it back in again. Fresh. Okay. So this is going to take this some time to create. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. And while it's starting, I'm going to explain some of the commands that are going, or some of the actual parameters we're passing to it. So first of all, we have to name this something in particular. So the name of our cluster is AKS-IM- in this case 5200. We're making the DNS entry for it, or the public IP address is associated with this AKS cluster. Since it's a public cluster, give it the same DNS name prefix as the name of the cluster. We are also deploying nodes into their own node resource group that is nicely named and doesn't have a hideous GUID naming function underneath it. So that's why node resource group is in use here, and that's also for the necessary reason for having the AKS preview extension installed. Next, you can see here the primary resource group where the actual AKS service itself is running is the same name as the name of the cluster. We're deploying to Western Europe. We're generating our own SSH keys for this cluster. Mind you, you have the option, of course, to provide your own SSH keys. That's typically something you're going to use more along the lines if you want a more customized solution, such as if you're using something like brain dead. In particular, if you're using something like I can't remember the name of it right now. My brain is literally dead right now. If you're using a customized solution for AKS. Anyways, we're enabling the autoscaler as well, and we're also enabling integration with, or the ability to log in with Azure Active Directory. And we're providing the Azure Active Directory tenant ID of our environment. And you can find this very easily by going to Azure Active Directory in your subscription that you're working with. And you should find that value here. That is the tenant ID that you see down here. So just in case, let me actually zoom in here for a second by 120%. So hopefully you can see that a little bit better. There you'll see the actual tenant ID right there. So next, let me go back here. All right, next you'll see in here that we're the admin username. In other words, the username to log into all the actual nodes is lxadmin. There isn't going to be an actual password associated with them. That's the reason for generating the SSH keys to begin with. The node pool name is called primary pool. The Kubernetes version that we're deploying is the latest 1.18.8. We're setting the node count to be 2 with a minimum count and maximum count, a minimum count of 1 with a maximum count of 2. The OS disk size is set to 100 gigabytes. And then the node VM size that we're dealing with is standard. Sorry, let me go back up here. This standard node VM size is standard underscore DS2 V2. Whichever node size version you want to use will depend upon the type of cluster you're trying to deploy, or the type of applications you're trying to deploy. So, and also what's available to you in your particular region. So from here, we can see now that it has completed, and we get all of this information here. And if we scroll all the way down here, you'll see we have public key information data, which you'll find here as well, which really has no value for us at this moment. But essentially the private key that's associated with this actual public key here is necessary in order to log into the actual nodes themselves. Further down here, we'll see that our provisioning of the cluster has succeeded. And next from here, if we just clear out of this and then come over here, go back to our resource groups, we will see we have our resource groups in place with our AKS cluster service. And in here, you will see that we actually have the clusters in place, and you'll see that the DNS name for the AKS cluster, let's go look at that real quick. That'll be in the other resource group. We'll look at that in just a second here. First of all, I wanted to basically show here real quick that we can actually go and look at the node pools in here, and we can see that they have provisioned successfully, and we see the node sizes of them. From here, you have the option, of course, to upgrade or scale, which we won't be going out here, but to let you know where that option is available, and or add additional pools. Now, if we go over to our nodes resource group, AKS IM 5200 nodes, we'll see that we have the actual, we can see our actual resources in here, including the machine scale set, which is the actual, our nodes where the K8s nodes were deployed to. And we see our network security groups, our Kubernetes load balancer, and the public IP address in here that's associated with it. It did not give us a DNS name, and I don't know why the hell it didn't give us a DNS name here. So
yeah, that's a good question. I expect that's a transient error because we didn't see that in subsequent deployments. Really, you can receive deployment errors or validation errors around this, and both of those error types are going to show up in the activity log. So we could go to the activity log to get to the bottom of what's going on there. So what do you say we move on and authenticate to this cluster?
okay, now that I am out of this here, next thing we want to do, we want to connect to our actual AKS cluster. And the fastest way we can do that is to essentially run the following command here, AKS get credentials. And of course, we're using the name of the cluster we're retrieving from, the resource group it resides. And in this case here, we're going to save our credentials to a file called AKS IAM admin kubeconfig, and we are downloading the admin credentials. And we see here that it has merged them into a context called AKS IAM 5200 admin kubeconfig. That is actually now here in our directory. And the next thing we need to do is we need to point our kube control in the Azure CLI to actually look at this, look at the actual file here for connecting to a cluster. So we run, so here we're going to run export kubeconfig equals AKS IAM dash rand dash admin dash kubeconfig. Note, you could run that, or if you wanted to, you could literally just run export kubeconfig equals slash, and we could also copy and paste this now because we have that here. Take your pick, either or works. And from here, we just run kube control, run cluster info. It may take a second for it to actually connect this time, and voila, we see we are actually connected to the cluster. We can clear this screen real quick. Kube control, get nodes. We can see the nodes on the cluster here. And if we want to, we could do kube control to look at everything else that's running on here. Kube control, get all namespaces. And from here, we can see everything that is actually currently running on the actual cluster, such as, you know, the basic pods and the actual Kubernetes service itself. Please note that we do not have access from here to the actual Kubernetes master. You'll notice that, again, when we run kube control get nodes, master, the actual master node is missing because it's managed. We have no way of accessing it. You'll notice that too also in the actual AKS IAM 5200 nodes. It's not showing up in here. Just note that if you want access to the master, you need to use something else. Exactly, AKS engine. Brain finally awake. Okay, if you need a customized solution whereby you need to actually use or gain access to your master, you need to use the AKS engine tool instead to deploy your cluster, instead of using the AKS service.
So AKS Engine is the technology that underpins Azure Kubernetes Service, but AKS Engine is an open source project that gives you an easy way to provision a self-managed Kubernetes cluster. You can bootstrap a cluster on Azure. You have full control to customize. You can see your management cluster, but it's unsupported. It's self-managed at that point. I do see AKS Engine in production scenarios occasionally. Check the article over on GitHub and the description notes here for a link over to the AKS Engine page on GitHub.
So there you have it. We have our cluster in place. Everything is working as intended. Next video, we will try to get something out that will actually show you how to deploy something very quickly into the cluster, and then, you know, get a public IP so you can see that it's actually accessible from the cluster.
And there you have it. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe so you get a heads up when the next video drops. Thanks for watching.